to you and deem more important than our obligation to steward this abundant wealth for the benefit of your creation. Fill this place with your Spirit. With the might of your word, speak to us of your power and purpose, that there will be no doubt in our minds that you alone are our desire. Everything we want, that we need, and that we have been given by your hand, that we would turn our hearts and minds to you and dedicate our efforts to ensure that all the people we serve, your people, would have the assurance of your provision, even when the world around them trembles, and the upheaval of these times threatens their well-being. Lord of the whole earth, sea, and sky, to you may we give our whole selves, that what we do on this day would reveal your power and provision for the children of your creation, the very people you have entrusted to our care. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceeding and announces to the House the approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will entertain requests for up to 15 one-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Schumer shutdown was proven irresponsible, achieving nothing, hurting American families. Last week, I joined with Republican colleagues in voting to open the government, as Republicans originally voted in September to keep it open. Now, with the 43-day Democrat shutdown, the longest in history, is over, the government can get back to work on behalf of the American people. The Democrat shutdown caused the loss of paycheck, destroyed jobs, delayed services to our military, and included the inconvenience and delay cancellation of flights worldwide. I am grateful for the leadership of President Donald Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson for promoting families first over failed political stunts. In conclusion, God bless our troops as the global war on terrorism continues. Trump is reinstituting peace through strength, revealing war criminal Putin lies, insulting Trump. Yesterday, attacking a Turkish flag tanker, causing evacuation in Romania, both NATO allies that we so value. Our prayers for the recovery of South Carolina native
Gentleman's
Jesse
time has
Jackson.
expired.
I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Michigan seek recognition? The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Republicans have to decide if they're going to protect pedophiles or seek justice for survivors of sex trafficking and abuse. I sat across from survivors. Some of them were as young as 13 and 14 at the time. And they told us over and over again, follow the money. The Treasury Department, Mr. Speaker, is sitting on suspicious activity reports on Epstein's financial network detailing thousands of transactions totaling more than $1.5 billion. In fact, J.P. Morgan knew about these suspicious transactions for more than a decade. He had 134 accounts with J.P. Morgan, but they chose to look the other way and continue to profit. The corrupt administration would rather protect the rich and powerful, their billionaire donors, and stop the truth from coming out. Survivors of these horrific and systematic sexual abuse, they deserve justice, and public deserves to know the full truth. But don't be fooled. President Trump has the power to release the full, unredacted files right now without congressional action and end the cover-up today.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Colorado seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Colonel Rick Tremillos for his extraordinary dedication and service as Scoutmaster of Troop 66 in Colorado Springs. For years, Rick has served as a mentor and a role model to the Scouts of Troop 66. His commitment to the principles of Scouting has created a nurturing environment where Scouts are encouraged to grow into responsible, confident leaders. Rick's ability to connect with youth, guide them through challenges, and celebrate their achievements is a testament to his deep compassion and unwavering dedication. Under his guidance, Troop 66 has thrived. Rick has led countless campouts, service projects, and leadership training events, always with the focus on building resilience, teamwork, and respect. His mentorship has helped many Scouts earn the rank of Eagle Scout, and more importantly, has instilled in them a lifelong commitment to service and integrity. On behalf of all
Gentleman's
those
time
whose
has
lives
expired.
he has touched, I extend my deepest gratitude and heartfelt recognition. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, under Donald Trump, America is joining the ranks of other countries in all the wrong ways. Freedom House now lists us among nations where judges and prosecutors face political attacks. Reporters Without Borders says our press freedom has sunk to a historic low. And now Trump has crossed a line no U.S. president ever dared cross. He withheld food assistance that Americans were legally entitled to, blocking nutrition benefits, not because the country can't afford them, but because he thinks it helps him politically. In my work as co-chair of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, I've seen brutal regimes use food as a weapon and leaders starve their own people to hold on to power. I never, ever thought I would see a U.S. president try to rip a page from the same playbook. What a shameful moment in our history, and I will continue to fight to end hunger now. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Mississippi seek recognition? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a distinguished public servant from Hancock County, Mississippi, Brian Hootie Adam, who will retire on December 21st, 2025, after more than 4 decades of serving his community. Hootie began his career in 1985 as a firefighter, answering the call when his neighbors needed him most. In 2003, he became director of Hancock Emergency Management Agency, a role he has carried with steady leadership for 22 years. During that time, he guided the county through many countless emergency destructive storms, and most notably, the unimaginable challenges of Hurricane Katrina. Through every crisis, Hootie was a source of strength, calm, prepared, and fully committed to protecting the people of Hancock County, Mississippi. His leadership saved lives, strengthened the emergency response across our region, and set a standard of service we should all admire. Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to join me in thanking Hootie Adam for his extraordinary dedication and wishing him the very best in well-earned retirement. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Michigan seek recognition? The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to celebrate Midland High School Principal Tila Sherman for being named the Michigan 2026 High School Principal of the Year. Principal Sherman's compassionate and hands-on leadership sets an example for schools across the country. She is an extraordinarily gifted leader who inspires those around her to stand up for every child in all of our communities. It is her passion for education and her fervent belief in every child's potential that guides the work she does every day. She encourages collaboration and teamwork among educators, making Midland High School a safe space that uplifts everyone under its roof. Principal Sherman pushes her students to dream big, asking them every single week, "Chemics, you determine your legacy. What will it be?" There are years ahead in her leadership journey in education. I have no doubt that she will leave a legacy of educational excellence, deep caring, and a spark of hope for every student she encounters. Go Chemics. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, As we recently celebrated veterans across the country, H.R. 5939, the USMC Helicopter Support in Vietnam Congressional Gold Medal Act, would award a Congressional Gold Medal to the Vietnam-era Marine Corps and Navy veterans who performed vital helicopter support missions. These flight crews executed incredibly risky and dangerous operations. They successfully carried out life-saving medical evacuations, transporting approximately 189,000 service members. Recognizing those who put their lives in harm's way to help out our wounded is long overdue. With the enactment of this bill, Congress can and must take the crucial step towards finally giving these brave veterans the heroes welcome they so deserve. Thank you, and I yield back.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. I want to sincerely thank the committee for its graciousness in allowing me to waive onto the Committee on Natural Resources earlier this year. It has been a privilege to serve and to help advance environmental justices policies for the people of New York's 7th District in Puerto Rico. Thank you for the privilege of holding 3 committees over the past few years. I will continue to remain on small business and financial services. Effective this week, I will remove myself from the Committee on Natural Resources to make room for another member who wishes to take the opening. It has been an honor to contribute to the committee's mission, and I look forward to continuing to advance our shared priorities in other capacities. Signed sincerely, Nydia Velazquez, Member of Congress.
Without objection, the resignation is accepted. What purpose does the gentlewoman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By direction of the Republican Conference, I offer a privileged resolution and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 886, resolved that the following named member be and is hereby elected to the following standing committee of the House of Representatives, Committee on Homeland Security. Mr. Fong.
Without objection, the resolution is agreed to and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, by direction of the Democratic Caucus, I offer a privileged resolution and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 887, resolved.
Be considered as read.
Without objection, the resolution is considered read. And without objection, the resolution is agreed to and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, by direction of the Committee on Rules, I call up House Resolution 879 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar Number 47, House Resolution 879. Resolved that upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House any joint resolutions specified in Section 2 of this resolution. All points of order against consideration of each such joint resolution are waived. Each such joint resolution shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in each such joint resolution are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on each such joint resolution and on any amendment thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one. 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Natural Resources or their respective designees, and 2, 1 motion to recommit or commit as the case may be. Section 2, the joint resolutions referred to in the first section of this resolution are as follows. A, the joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska Integrated Activity Plan Record of Decision. B, the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 130, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Buffalo Field Office Record of Decision and approved Resource Management Plan Amendment. C, the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 131, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program, Record of Decision. Section 3, upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House a concurrent resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 58, denouncing the horrors of socialism. All points of order against consideration of the concurrent resolution are waived. The concurrent resolution shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the concurrent resolution are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the concurrent resolution and preamble to adoption without intervening motion except 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Financial Services or their respective designees. Section 4, upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the bill, H.R. 1949, to repeal restrictions on the export and import of natural gas. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The bill shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the bill are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill and on any amendment thereto to final passage without intervening motion except 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce or their respective designees, and 2, 1 motion to recommit. Section 5, upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the bill H.R. 3109 to require the Secretary of Energy to direct the National Petroleum Council to issue a report with respect to petrochemical refineries in the United States and for other purposes. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The bill shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the bill are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill and on any amendment thereto to final passage without intervening motion except 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce or their respective designees, and 2, 1 motion to recommit. Section 6, upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the bill H.R. 5107 to repeal the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022 enacted by the District of Columbia Council. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, now printed in the bill, shall be considered as adopted. The bill, as amended, shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the bill as amended are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill as amended and on any further amendment thereto to final passage without intervening motion, except 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform or their respective designees, and 2, 1 motion to recommit. Section 7, upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the bill H.R. 5214 to require mandatory pretrial and post-conviction detention for crimes of violence and dangerous crimes and require mandatory cash bail for certain offenses that pose a threat to the public safety or order in the District of Columbia and for other purposes. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, now printed in the bill, shall be considered as adopted. The bill as amended shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the bill as amended are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill as amended and on any further amendment thereto to final passage without intervening motion except 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform or their respective designees, and 2, one motion to recommit. Section 8, upon transmission to the Senate of a message that the House has passed H.R. 4405, House Resolution 581 shall be laid on the table.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina is recognized for 1 hour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the purpose of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. McGovern, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume. During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purpose of debate only. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the rule and the underlying legislation. Yesterday, the Rules Committee met and produced a rule, H.Res. 879, providing for the House's consideration of 8 separate measures. The rule provides closed rules for consideration of S.J. Res. 80, H.J. Res. 130, H.J. Res. 131, with 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Natural Resources or their respective designees for each joint resolution. The rule provides each such joint resolution 1 motion to recommit. Further, the rule provides closed rules for the consideration of H.R. 1949 and H.R. 3109, with 1 hour debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce or their respective designees for each bill. The rule provides each bill with a motion to recommit. Additionally, the rule provides for consideration of H. Con. Res. 58 under a closed rule with 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Financial Services or their respective designees. The rule also provides for consideration of H.R. 5214 and H.R. 5107 under closed rules with 1 hour debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform or their respective designees on each bill. The rule provides 1 motion to recommit for each bill. Finally, the rule tables House Resolution 581 upon the transmission of a message to the Senate that the House has passed H.R. 4405. Mr. Speaker, after over 40 days of the Democrat government shutdown, the House has returned to regular order, and this majority is continuing to push forward with the America First agenda, the American people's agenda. All of these pieces of legislation we're considering today are in alignment with the American people's demand and President Trump's executive orders that we maintain a robust posture of American energy dominance. You know, Mr. Speaker, our Democrat colleagues have developed a strong proclivity to thumb their noses at the development of energy that comes from American soil. One must wonder why they choose to do that. They pay lip service to environmental protections and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but it's just a fact that American oil and American natural gas are cleaner and more environmentally friendly than any of our global competitors. Why would they cede our dominance on the global stage in favor of hostile actors who lack even the most basic environmental protections? We are blessed as a nation to have vast repositories of natural resources that we can draw from and utilize accordingly. When we ignore the opportunities to harness these resources for our benefit, we deny ourselves the opportunity to grow more self-sufficient. H.R. 5214 and H.R. 5107, 2 measures reported from the Oversight Committee, focus on restoring law and order in our nation's capital city, a city that ought to be a model for the rest of the nation to follow.
Does the gentlelady reserve?
I'm going on, Mr. Speaker. H.R. 5214 would revoke cashless bail in the District of Columbia and would require mandatory pretrial and post-conviction detention for crimes of violence and other dangerous crimes. H.R. 5107 would repeal the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022, enacted by the District of Columbia Council. This act targeted police officers in D.C. for simply doing their duties, and it led to over 1,600 officers being removed from the city's force. Thanks to President Trump's efforts, the streets in D.C. are safer, and we have the opportunity through these two measures to add to that progress. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we have H. Conrad's 58, a resolution denouncing the horrors of socialism. Most of us here in this body recognize how dangerous the plague of socialism really is. We understand its history of failure and oppression. Throughout history, this ideology has collapsed into the most brutal of dictatorships, communist regimes, and outright totalitarian rule. Many are quick to avert their eyes and cover their ears when presented with facts about the horrors of socialism. How many individuals across the world have suffered and died because of it? This resolution will put everyone in this body on record. The American people will see who espouses this caustic ideology and those who reject it. I reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentlelady from North Carolina for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, Americans are working more and more for less and less. Almost every day I speak with young people who can't afford to start a family, can't buy a house, can't get ahead. I hear it from seniors who are struggling to survive on fixed incomes. I see it with my own eyes, moms and dads putting items back on the shelves in the grocery store because they can't afford them. Parents who can't go back to work because they can't afford childcare. People whose health insurance premiums are doubling and tripling because this majority has failed to act. During election season, we heard from Trump and Republicans who swore up and down they would bring down prices. They promised the American people they would reverse inflation and focus like a laser on affordability. And they have broken that promise. They have betrayed the American people. And if you want more evidence of that, look at the bills on the floor today. More garbage, more culture war crap, more bills written by this Republican majority of, by, and for the billionaire class. Republicans moved heaven and earth to give tax breaks to the rich and powerful. That got done in a nanosecond. But if you're a regular person staring down next year's healthcare premium hikes and deciding whether to pay $1,000 more or put food on the table, the answer you get back from Republicans is let them eat cake. We are barreling toward another shutdown at the end of January. We could have spent the last 2 months working on passing the 9 appropriations bills Republicans still need to pass to stop another shutdown. And instead, they went on a taxpayer-funded paid vacation for 8 weeks. And let me just say, because we are debating a rule to consider these 8 bills, this rule sucks. 8 closed rules, no amendments, no changes allowed on the floor. Take it or leave it. And if you're keeping count at home, that's 80 completely closed rules this Congress, the most ever in a year. And I want to correct the gentlelady because last night in the Rules Committee, she said 5 of these bills didn't receive any amendments. That's because she didn't ask for any. And when you don't send an amendment deadline, everyone knows you're doing a closed rule. And I just want to say to my Republican colleagues, you have been complicit in these 80 closed rules nearly 9 out of 10 times. You, the majority party, have not been allowed to bring amendments to the floor. You're getting blocked by your own leadership time and time again. How does that feel? Again, this is a terrible rule, and I urge a no vote, and I reserve my time.
Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While it's true there have been 80 closed measures, this number needs context. 12 of the closed rules were in the rules package, which passed 2 weeks before the 119th Rules Committee even organized to begin meeting. Additionally, 25 measures were CRAs. They don't allow for an amendment. 16 were bills that received no amendments, meaning 41 measures were closed by definition. It's also important that 4 of the closed rules are duplicates from a previous failed rule. So in reality, only 27 measures have been closed by discretion of the committee. Additionally, the Rules Committee under Republican control has simply been more productive, producing more total rules than our colleagues ever did. For example, during the most recent Democrat-controlled Congresses, the Rules Committee produced 127 total rules in the 116th Congress and 163 in the 117th Congress. Contrast this to the 200 total rules in the Republican-led 118th Congress. For the 119th, we're on pace to once again produce nearly 200 rules for the Congress. So, Mr. Speaker, we're doing our job. We're not closing out debate. We're having plenty of debate. There's plenty of opportunities for our colleagues to offer amendments. Thank you. I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, a lot of words to justify the most closed Congress in history, the most authoritarian Congress in history. It would make Putin blush. Mr. Speaker, if we defeat the previous question, I will offer an amendment to the rule to provide for consideration of H.R. 6074, which would extend the Affordable Care Act enhanced premium tax credits for 3 years through 2028. We are in the midst of a healthcare crisis. More than 20 million Americans who get their health care on the ACA exchanges are going to see their premiums skyrocket next year. That includes 250,000 people in my home state of Massachusetts who are paying lower premiums and copays due to these tax credits, which Democrats created in 2021 and are set to expire at the end of the year. Let me read you some of the stories from folks in my district. Quote, I just received my letter and my monthly costs have gone from $1,287 to $3,026 for next year. As a working family with a daughter who has an autoimmune disease, we are struggling, and I'm working 50+ hours a week just to pay the insurance, end quote. Another one, and I quote, with the health connector, I was paying $264 per month, acceptable seeing that I am healthy but not young. Without the advanced premium tax credit, my monthly premium will be just over $800 per month. I can't and I won't pay that. I will go without. This is happening across the country. And for the sake of millions of Americans and their health care, I urge my Republican colleagues to support this bill and vote no on the previous question. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of my amendment into the record along with any extraneous material immediately prior to the vote on the previous question. And I reserve.
Without objection. Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Utah, Mr. Owens.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman, for yielding. Mr. Speaker, after blatant obstruction and prolonged delay on the part of congressional Democrats for over 40 days, the House has returned to regular order. It's good to be back, and it's about time. Today, we're here to advance 8 separate measures that meet the demands of the American people and strengthen President Trump's successful America First agenda. My constituents voted for the dissolution of the Biden bureaucratic barrage and for the safety of their communities, from bolstering American energy dominance to upholding law and order, strengthening the criminal justice system in the nation's capital, to rejecting the failed ideology of socialism. House Republicans continue to deliver measurable and substantial progress. I urge my colleagues to support the rule and the 8 underlying pieces of legislation. Let's continue delivering wins for the American people. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from North Carolina reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, shortly on the floor, Republicans are about to finally bring up the Massey Counter bill to release the Epstein files. We had to drag this leadership here kicking and screaming. And I appreciate their sudden and stunning change of heart on this issue. But I want to state for the record that the Republican leadership has tried to block this day for months and months and months. And I also want to state for the record that Donald Trump could release these files on his own today, right now, right this very second. He doesn't need to wait for Congress to pass the bill. He could release the files himself, but he won't. That is why we are here, because he refuses to act. Meanwhile, the Republican majority has blocked transparency at every turn. They stonewalled in committee. The gentlelady from North Carolina and every Republican on the Rules Committee voted 9 times to block my amendment to release the Epstein files. 9 times. Republicans were so afraid of my amendment that Speaker Johnson shut down the Rules Committee and sent us home early in July. And then he refused to swear in a new member of Congress for weeks because she promised to be the 218th signature to force this bill forward. Only four Republicans signed the discharge petition. Every single Democrat signed on. In a few moments, I'm going to yield time to Representative Massey, who has been the Republican leader of this effort in the House, alongside Representative Khanna on the Democratic side. And here's why I'm doing that. This bill should be getting a full hour of debate on the floor. But Speaker Johnson, I guess at Donald Trump's direction, is throwing every procedural gimmick at the wall to see what sticks. And he's trying to limit debate on the floor because for some reason he is very, very afraid of talking about this. So that's why I'm donating a significant chunk of my time to members who have been silenced by the Speaker for the terrible crime of demanding truth and transparency. Now, if I had to guess, most Republicans will probably vote in favor of releasing the files. But they're not voting yes because their conscience changed. They're voting yes because Donald Trump tells most of them how to vote. And he realized he's lost on this one. He says the people who support this bill, quote, betrayed the entire Republican Party. Really? Really? How is accountability for a pedophile something Donald Trump campaigned on? How is that now a betrayal? This was his issue, his idea. He ran on releasing the files. And by the way, to those who say that Biden should have released these files, let me just address that right now. You're right. He should have. But he didn't make it his number one issue, and he's not the president right now. Donald Trump is. He could have released the files at any point over the last 11 months, but he has not. Republicans have had months to sign the discharge petition. They had months to bring this bill to the floor. But this leadership has chosen obstruction. They don't want to pass this bill. They don't even want to talk about it on the House floor. And so that's why debate matters. And with that, I reserve my time.
Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear. Republicans don't oppose the full transparency of the Epstein files. We embrace the Oversight Committee's task of doing just that. We embrace Representative Massey's legislation here today by putting it up for a vote under suspension. I'll be voting for it. We already have a House investigation that carries the full force of law, and there's no opposition to respecting the majority's wishes to get this codified into law. Let's get to it. Let's get the vote and end these false debates, straw man arguments, and non sequiturs. We tried to pass this bill last week, but Democrats wouldn't agree to doing so. Let's vote now. Democrats should stop, listen, and take yes for an answer. I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the gentlelady doesn't oppose this. Boy, you have a funny way of showing it. I gave the gentlelady 9 opportunities in the Rules Committee to bring this measure to the floor. 9 opportunities. And every time I brought up an amendment, she voted it down. 9 opportunities. So to say that somehow this is always what you wanted, I don't know. That doesn't pass the smell test. Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from California, Mr. Khanna.
Gentleman's recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership over the last 5 months to make sure that this bill came to the floor. Thank you also to Don Sisson for his leadership and understanding of all the rules to make this possible. Now, as we are here today, I saw on CNN that the president is meeting with the Saudi prince. You know what America First means to me? How about meeting with the survivors? How about making sure that America's girls are not being raped? That's what it means to be America First, not going and just meeting with Saudi princes. You know, I am so honored to be here and working together with Congressman Thomas Massey, who's shown so much courage and principle, and I'm so honored to be here next to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and Congresswoman Nancy Mace. I was telling someone, they said, what did you learn through this process? I said, sometimes we have to see people not just through their caricature. And I had caricatures of Representative Greene and Representative Massey and Representative Mace. But what I saw is they cared as Americans and human beings, and they stood with courage. And they looked at this not from politics, they looked at this as what is right. And I'm proud today to be a member of Congress. I'm proud to work with them, and I'm proud of what we are showing this country is possible. That if we actually care about American values, maybe we can overcome some of the bitter divides in this country. If we don't care about just getting the credit and maybe work together, we could actually care about forgotten and abandoned Americans like the survivors that testified today. I was so moved by their testimony. How can you hear their testimony, as all of us have heard, see their tears, see them holding up photos at the age of 14 and think that they're not telling the truth? This is not politics, this is humanity. Sometimes we get into these chambers and we forget what happened, of how we grew up. Most of us, we grew up, we went to barbecue, we went to Little League games, we went to church or temple. We didn't fly around in private jets and go to a rape island. We didn't buy off politicians and tell them to keep quiet. We didn't think that it was normal to abuse or rape young girls. And then they're saying, well, we don't know if they were 18 or 22. Come on, it's rotten. Then they say, well, just care about the price of eggs, just care about the price of healthcare. You know what's more important than that? American values. These rich, greedy men abused American values. They abused what's sacred about this country. They abused what built this country.
I yield the gentleman additional minute.
And it is time that they're going to have a reckoning. The Epstein class is going to go. And the reason they're going to go is because the progressive left and the MAGA right and everyone in between is finally waking up against this rotten system. And when people are united, when people work across the aisle, amazing things can happen because the American people are kind and good and decent. So it's an honor, Congressman Massey, to have worked with you. And I salute particularly the courage of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. None of this would have been possible without their courage in standing up on the petition and for what they did. I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, at the top of this page that I have, I've written Democrat hypocrisy on Epstein. That's what we're hearing today. I'm proud to be a member of the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. I'm proud to have supported the full investigation into the Epstein files on that committee. Furthermore, I'm proud to have supported formalizing that investigation by taking the decisive step in directing that investigation by a special rule provided by the Rules Committee. This gave the oversight investigation the full weight of the House of Representatives behind the committee's existing subpoena power. Very important in this debate. Let's get things straight here. In just a matter of hours, we're going to get to vote on the Massey bill. But that won't preclude the existing House Oversight and Government Reform Committee's investigation in any way. And that's a great thing because that investigation is yielding results. We now know that one of Jeffrey Epstein's closest confidants was apparently Larry Summers, a cabinet member in the Clinton administration. We now know that a Democrat member in this body, Stacey Plaskett, was colluding with Jeffrey Epstein in real time during a hearing. And the subject matter? How to take down President Trump. Mr. Speaker, you can't make this stuff up. We now know that Epstein himself hated President Trump. It's in black and white. We now know that one of the chief Epstein victims stated that President Trump never acted inappropriately. And don't forget that oversight investigation specifically subpoenaed Bill and Hillary Clinton for their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. They haven't been quick to step into the breach and exonerate themselves, have they? But the truth will continue to come out as it has because of Republicans and a current Republican-led House Oversight and Government Reform Committee investigation, one that already carries the full force of law. Let's see where that leads. I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the gentlelady says that just trust her and the Republican leadership. And I got to tell you, I can't after what I saw unfold over these last several months. Obstruction and using every maneuver possible to avoid this moment where we're having here today. And I want to say that for the record, it doesn't matter whether there's Republicans or Democrats or independents that are implicated in these files. We believe in accountability for everybody who abuses young women. And we believe in justice. And that is kind of what's uniting many of us on this, on this side of the aisle here today. And I just want to, again, I want to thank Representative Connor for his leadership. I want to thank Representative Massey, Representative Green, and Representative Mace for their courage and for their willingness to stand up for what is right. We don't agree on very much, but we do agree that there ought to be accountability when young women are abused, and so that's what this is about. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massey, control the remainder of my time.
Without objection. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, may I inquire as to how much time I have?
You have 17 minutes remaining.
I yield myself 2 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, today's an extraordinary day in this chamber. If my colleagues will vote for this measure, we'll see justice triumph over politics. Truth will triumph over deception and obfuscation. Transparency will triumph over dark money. Partisanship will fall way to bipartisanship. Grassroots, the people, will reclaim the people's house with this vote. It's going to be a victory for survivors, not just survivors of the Epstein sex trafficking scandal, the 1,000 survivors that exist. Some of them are victims. They're no longer alive. Some have committed suicide. They share one thing in common. Their youth was robbed from them. Much of their lives were robbed from them, but they're claiming it back. We're going to help them claim that back. But it's not just a victory today, if this vote prevails for those survivors. It's a victory for every person, man or woman, boy or girl, who's been victimized sexually in this country. Anybody who's been a victim of sexual assault, or maybe they've been victimized by a family member. Maybe it's not a billionaire, but they're all waiting and watching to see what we do today. They're wondering, if I go to mom or dad, will anything happen? If I go to the sheriff, will anything happen? Well, we have a chance today to make something happen. Something that's not happened, something that should have happened decades ago, and that is to get justice for these victims and survivors and transparency for America. That's what this vote is about today. and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Kentucky reserves. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
I reserve. Mr.
Gentlelady
Speaker.
reserves. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I now yield 5 minutes to the gentlewoman from Georgia, Mrs. Green.
The gentlelady from Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I proudly rise today in a bipartisan effort to release the Epstein files finally, after 5 administrations have covered it up. Earlier today, I attended the press conference where the survivors, they're not victims, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse and sex trafficking told their stories. And they told stories about how it started back in 1991, 1996, and they continued on through the decades. And they told stories about how they told someone and tried to get help. They told the FBI and they weren't listened to. And they told law enforcement and no one did anything. And these women don't just number a few. These women number around 1,000 women. And they are victims of something that's unthinkable. And this should have never, ever happened. This was the biggest fight I think I've seen in Washington, D.C. This is my 5th year here. And this was a fight that we should have never had to wage. It should have been the easiest thing for every single member of Congress. It should have been the easiest thing for the Speaker of the House. It should have been the easiest thing for the President of the United States to release all the information, every single file, on behalf of these American women. These American women aren't rich, powerful elites. They do not have someone paying for their airline tickets or paying for their trips or paying for their expenses every time they try to do something to get this information out. These are your average Americans. And you want to know what the Epstein files represent? The cover-up represents to average Americans. It represents the failures of the federal government and Congress to the American people. And that is what people rose up about in 2024. They wanted and demanded transparency from their government and for Americans finally to be put first. And today, with this vote, we are finally putting these victims and these survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and the cabal of rich, powerful elites that expands not just here in the United States of America, but to other countries as well. We're putting them last. And that is exactly what Americans want. You see, for far too long, Americans have been put last. And they're sick of it. They're sick and tired of it. And this is why they don't trust Congress. This is why they don't trust the government. And here's the problem. All of these women who have suffered in shame for years and years and years, women who were terrified, women who were intimidated, women who were threatened, just like Virginia Giuffre. And now she's dead. And these women should have never faced that for this information to come out. And we, especially the 4 Republican members of the House of Representatives, we should have never faced intimidation and threats for us to get this vote to come to the floor. Never forget, there were 4. Thomas Massey, myself, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. We had to sign a discharge petition, and we had to fight through intimidation, and we had to endure it for months to push that discharge petition finally to 218 to get this vote to come out. This is what the American people are sick of, and rightfully so. Now, where does this go from here? The question will remain, will the Department of Justice release all the information? Will a judge in New York release the information? Will the CIA release the information? And will foreign governments release their information? Or will this continue after this vote today be a cover-up? A cover-up of the rich, powerful elites that bond together in sex and human trafficking abuse and all types of global business that enriches them but never serves Americans. The American people will know, and the victims, actually the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, will know because they know the list of names. And I remain dedicated to my promise to read those names here on the House floor if those women ever find them in a place that it needs to be done. I yield back to Mr.
Gentlelady
Massey.
from Georgia yields back. Gentleman from Kentucky reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
I reserve, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I yield myself a minute and 30 seconds.
Gentleman's recognized for a minute.
I want to thank the generosity of Jim McGovern, Representative McGovern, for granting us this time. I'm embarrassed for my own party today. I'm embarrassed we withheld signing in, swearing in a duly representative of the people for 49 days just to avoid this vote that's finally going to happen today. I'm embarrassed that my own party isn't going to yield me time to debate this, even though they say they support it and I authored it. They don't even want to yield me time to debate this during the bill debate. But I'm thankful. Let me tell you who I'm thankful to. These three brave women, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. They have been threatened. They have been intimidated. Physically, politically, it's disgusting. And not by the far left. They have been intimidated by people in our own party. And for what? For seeking justice for these victims. So my hat's off. I congratulate them for standing strong. I've always wondered, where were the Republican men during this battle? We've taken 5 months. These three women and I have had to drag our party to this floor today to even vote on this. And Ro Khanna is the most to be thanked here in an extraordinary display of bipartisanship. He did not hesitate when I asked if we wanted to bring this bill to the floor together, if he would stand in the trenches with me. He said yes. With that, I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlelady's recognized.
Boy, we need to get facts straight here. President Trump's DOJ, in his first term, arrested and prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein. We, on our side, want justice to prevail in this case and in every case. Speaker Johnson has always been clear that if the discharge petition reached the necessary signatures, that the House would consider the legislation, and that's what we're providing for in our rule today. In fact, as soon as the petition hit 218 votes last Wednesday, House Republicans offered a unanimous consent request to pass the legislation then. However, the Democrat leader would not give consent to do that last week. Why? Because they're not really interested in this. They're interested in some other things. And Mr. Speaker, I have to correct the record. Mr. Massey did not request time from me. I'm the person who controls the time on the Republican side, and he did not request time from me, or I would have given him time. I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I'd like to now recognize the gentlelady from South Carolina for 5 minutes, Nancy Mace.
Gentlelady from South Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank my colleagues today for the time, Mr. McGovern and Mr. Khanna, for the 5 minutes on the floor to speak about an issue that is not political for me. Helping the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and his horrific, gruesome, brutal sex trafficking ring is deeply personal. And while we often have many disagreements about a lot of issues, maybe most issues, today they are allowing us to speak on the floor. And I want to thank my colleagues, Congressman Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert, the four of us making history today over the discharge petition and delivering justice for those who have desperately fought for it for, in some cases, almost 30 years. I wore white today because I wanted to reflect on the innocence of the young women who had their innocence stolen from a demon named Jeffrey Epstein, from demons, friends of his, rich and powerful people who stole their innocence as young as 14 years old. It was taken from them and they've never gotten it back. I'm also wearing white today to recognize the courage that it takes for women to come forward, the sacrifices to them personally, professionally, financially, the embarrassment, the humiliation, the shame that we still deliver on the backs of women who have been brutalized, who've been raped, who've been assaulted. The shame that the media pours over their heads, that their colleagues, their friends, their neighbors, their loved ones, because you come forward and because you talk about sexual assault, you are not a slut. It's not because of what you wore. You're not a whore. But that's how women are treated, and you're not lying. And I want every woman to know, every Epstein survivor to know, every woman across the country who is a survivor, who is a victim of assault, that today we see you. And this fight and this vote tonight, I see it is about the Epstein victims, but it's about much more than the Epstein victims. This is about the powerless, taking power away from the very powerful. This is about giving women who never had a voice, giving a voice to the voiceless. This is about their sacrifice. This is about having and recognizing their courage. This is about justice for the Epstein victims, but it's also about hope. Earlier this year, I gave a speech right here on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives, detailing trauma that I experienced, endured, and am a survivor of, that I accidentally uncovered 2 years ago, almost to the day. And today, I still don't have justice, like millions of women across the country. When I spoke out, I got attacked. When I spoke out, I was shamed. When I spoke out, I was defamed and smeared. And that goes on today, right now, in the present. God sure has a funny way of working through us. I, like many of the Epstein survivors and many other survivors across the country, I don't think I will ever heal from the destruction my abuser did to me. But I can heal by being a vessel and being a voice for all those who need it. And that's why we are here today. That is why I will never abandon a single survivor ever. And I will never waver. I spent my morning talking to law enforcement and others about another potential Jane Doe number 5, who may be another sexual assault victim in the case that I uncovered 2 years ago. It's very difficult for us to come forward, but I want to thank the women who have, the Epstein victims, the victims in the case that I uncovered. I want to thank all of you for being a voice, for giving me hope. Maybe one day I too can get justice. Thank you, and I yield.
Lady yields back. Gentleman from Kentucky reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Our colleagues want Americans to believe that this discharge petition and underlying legislation are the be-all and end-all in this investigation. However, it's House Republicans who've worked tirelessly to achieve true justice for victims. To date, the significant information that has come out has come from the Oversight and Government Reform Committee as a result of its issuing 13 subpoenas. We've released 65,000 pages of documents from the Department of Justice, the Epstein estate, which was not mentioned in the underlying legislation, former U.S. attorney, and others. Let me state again, the unanimous consent request to pass the legislation immediately last week was blocked by the minority leader. Full stop. If Democrats truly cared about finding justice immediately for victims, this legislation would have been passed last week. Instead, they want political theater to capitalize on. House Republicans, on the other hand, remain focused on truth, accountability, and delivering real justice for Epstein's victims, not political points. I reserve.
Reserves. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, may I inquire as to how much time I have remaining?
Gentleman has 5.5 minutes remaining.
I yield myself 3.5 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, all that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And we've had a lot of good men doing a lot of nothing on the other side of the aisle until we did something. 3 brave women and myself and the Democrat caucus. We did something. And then what did they do? They've opposed us every step of the way. They've lied about the legislation. Let me tell you some of the lies they've told. They've said that it doesn't protect victims. Well, if that is so, why were dozens of victims with us today at a press conference urging this body to pass this legislation? It's because this legislation specifically protects victims. They've said this legislation does not prevent the release of child pornography. Of course it does. We have a specific provision in our legislation to prevent that. They've said so many falsehoods about this legislation, but now they're going to vote for it, hopefully enthusiastically. But really, they've been drugged to this. Our judicial system is broken. If it were working, there wouldn't be 1,000 victims who haven't seen justice yet. They are victims of the Epstein class. I begrudge nobody success that they become a billionaire. But if you think being a billionaire or buying politicians keeps you out of the judicial system, lets you rape young women, lets you traffic women, you've got another thing coming when this bill passes. Do not let the Senate muck this up. There have already been efforts to derail this, our discharge petition. The Oversight Committee has released thousands, tens of thousands of documents. That's fine. Keep working. How many names have you released? 0. You are still protecting, or the DOJ is protecting, pedophiles and sex traffickers. The time for that to stop is now. Now, our speaker says, oh, this bill needs amended in the Senate, and specifically, he's trying to create a loophole. He's trying to categorize the pedophiles as victims. He's saying, oh, we don't embarrass the people that went to the rape island. We should protect those names against unreliable accusations. Is he calling all of these victims unreliable? They've testified to the FBI. The FBI has these names in their possession. I asked the FBI director in a hearing, have you looked at the documents? No, he trusts everybody that's been there for decades. That is wrong. Do not let the Senate muck this bill up. And if you're a party to that in the Senate, you are part of this cover-up that we are trying to expose. I am sorry if one of your billionaire donors is going to get embarrassed because he went to Rape Island. That is what they have coming. In fact, they need to be on the other side of bars, a lot of them. Some of them will be embarrassed, but some of them need to go to prison, and the survivors know that. So how will we know if this bill has been successful? We will know when there are men, rich men in handcuffs being perp walked to the jail. And until then, this is still a cover-up. I urge my Senate colleagues, do not muck up this bill. The president has already said he will sign it. That means he will sign the bill that we have here today. Do not change this bill. He is ready to sign it. Give it to him. Put it on his desk. Let's get justice for these victims. With that, I reserve.
The gentleman from Kentucky reserves. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Reserve.
The gentlelady reserves.
Is the gentlelady prepared to close?
Yes, I am, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I yield the remainder of my time to Ranking Member Mr. McGovern.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you. And first, let me say how much I admire the courage of my Republican colleagues who are beside me here today. Mr. Speaker, at the end of the day, this is not about us, and it's not about politics. This is about the survivors, young girls who were exploited by powerful men who use money and power to take advantage of girls, some as young as 11 years old. The President of the United States calls it all a hoax. Can you imagine that? What an evil and disgusting thing to say. These young girls, now women, the survivors, what happened to them was horrific. They were sexually abused, many of them for years, and the President of the United States calls it all a hoax. What kind of messed up, sick in the head, immoral person says something like that? This bill is about making sure powerful men are held accountable. It's about demanding truth and transparency for the American people. Now, Republican leaders in this House lost control of the story. They lost the ability to hide behind procedure, and they lost the luxury of pretending that they were ever on the right side. The American people see it, survivors see it, and history will see it. And listening to the Speaker of the House's press conference today, I mean, it sounds like he basically wants to kill this whole thing. He's trying to obstruct and derail the process. Why the hell is he fighting so hard to do the opposite of what the survivors want? What an awful, awful thing to do. So let us release the files. Let's give survivors the transparency they've long been denied. Let us take back power from the rich billionaire elites who think they can do whatever they want with no justice or accountability. And let's remember exactly who had to be dragged here under duress and who stood up from day one demanding the truth. And with that, I yield back.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president. Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those of us who did not sign the discharge petition are just as concerned about the victims, or if you, as some are calling them, survivors, as our colleagues who signed the discharge petition. We share contempt for anyone who abused anyone else. I've stood on this floor many times, Mr. Speaker, to speak out for victims and survivors of people who have been abused, and against anyone who breaks the law or takes advantage of an innocent person. We will not be characterized as insensitive to that. But what House Republicans who didn't sign the discharge petition remain focused on truth, accountability, and delivering real justice for Epstein victims. Again, I'll point out that it was under President Trump's Department of Justice that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and tried. We have not tried to avoid this situation. We want things done the right way. We want maximum justice for these victims and survivors. Our rule today simply expedites consideration of the Massey-Khanna legislation. And as I said, we would have liked to have seen it pass last week when we gave an opportunity for it, but it was blocked by the Democrat minority leader. I ask for support for this rule, the underlying legislation. With that, I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the previous question, yes on the rule, and Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time and move the previous question on the resolution.
The gentlelady yields back the balance of her time. The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker,
For what
request
purpose
the
does
yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the chair will postpone further proceedings today on motions to suspend the rules on which a recorded vote or the yeas and nays are ordered, or votes objected to under Clause 6 of Rule 20. The House will resume proceedings on postponed questions at a later time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 4405.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 4405, a bill to require the Attorney General to release all documents and records in possession of the Department of Justice relating to Jeffrey Epstein and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Ohio.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and to insert extraneous material on H.R. 4405.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
We all support holding bad guys accountable, and we're all going to vote for this resolution. But I think a little perspective is important. Democrats have spent 6 months talking about Epstein, even though they had 4 years to do something about it. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Maybe it's to go after President Trump. Never forget, they shut down the government for 43 days. They said, don't worry about our military. Don't worry about air traffic controllers. Don't worry about our economy. Don't worry about American families. No, no, no. Close the government for a month and a half because it might hurt the president. For the past decade, there's been one constant for Democrats. One constant: go after Trump. They spied on his campaign. Then it was Mueller. Then it was impeachment 1. Then it was impeachment 2. Then it was all the lawfare. Alvin Bragg, Fonnie Willis, Letitia James. Then it was Arctic Frost investigation at the Justice Department, surveilling United States senators and congressmen, and a whole host of other Americans. Then it was Jack Smith and his gag orders and his raiding President Trump's home. Then it was a 43-day shutdown, and now it's Epstein. And by the way, the same party that did all that, they were also the ones who were texting with Mr. Epstein during a hearing where Michael Cohen was their witness in another effort to go after the president. Americans see through it all, and frankly, it's actually kind of sad. This obsession, this syndrome, this mindset that says we got to go after President Trump no matter what that they have. And when I think about it, I think it's because President Trump and Republicans have accomplished so much that they told the voters they were going to accomplish in the 2024 election. We're actually doing what we said we were going to do. President Trump said he was going to cut taxes, and he did. President Trump said he would secure the border, and he did. President Trump said he'd get men out of women's sports, and he did. President Trump said he would make sure Iran doesn't have nuclear capability, and he did. And he said he would get the hostages out of Gaza back into Israel, and he did. All in 9 months. So I don't know what causes this mindset, this syndrome that the left has, but I know one thing. It is real. Which brings me to last week. Think about what the Democrats did last week. The Democrats released an email that the Oversight Committee had obtained from the estate. An email from Mr. Epstein to Ms. Maxwell. When the Democrats released it, they redacted the victim's name. Something we all support. Something everyone supports. Except in this case, no court had ordered that name redacted. No agency had redacted it. And the estate didn't redact it. And the victim had already went public. So why black out her name? Why black out her name? Because she had said in her book and had testified under oath that she never saw any wrongdoing by President Trump. So think about what they did. In an email between two criminals, Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell, in an email between two criminals, they hide the name of an individual who had went public and exonerated the president. And we know why. To distort and twist the message because they thought it might harm the president. Their position
Cover up the names of people who are already public, but don't worry about other innocent people who the court said should remain private. Again, I think the American people see through it. They see through what the Democrats are doing. The American people know what this is. They know Democrats have nothing else to run on because of the success of this administration. So I say let's vote yes on this resolution, and then let's get focused on making sure we're doing what the American families elected us to do. With that, I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Today, 4 months and 3 days after Mr. Khanna and Mr. Massey introduced their discharge petition, perhaps the most famous discharge petition in American history, the People's House unites across party lines to draw a moral line. We draw a line against the rape and sexual violation of children. We draw a line against the global criminal trafficking of girls and young women to service the pleasure of rich and powerful men who believe they are beyond all law and all morality. We draw a line to put the voices of the victims and the survivors first. We ask the Senate to join us without changes rather than obstruct this bill with dilatory amendments, legislative graffiti, and self-dealing million-dollar jackpot provisions for lucky senators. Just pass the bill. We're finally voting today because a bipartisan discharge petition led by Representatives Massey and Khanna and signed by 218 of us overthrew the determined obstruction of the Speaker. This forced vote means the House will no longer acquiesce in this astonishing real-time cover-up of a multi-billion-dollar global sex trafficking and child rape ring that has ravaged the lives of more than 1,000 girls and young women. We're here today because these victims, these survivors, these citizens, these inspiring women who have come to Washington are demanding nothing less than justice and the complete truth about who is responsible for their vicious abuse, including those responsible for enabling it, ignoring it, bankrolling it, and covering it up. We join them today in rejecting any more dangerous lies about the crimes they suffered. No, child sex abuse is not a hoax. It's a crime. Human trafficking is not a hoax. It's a crime. These crimes are a curse on children and young people across America, in universities and elementary schools, in churches and mosques and synagogues, in Boy Scout troops and college sports teams and summer camps. Anywhere the powerful and the rich believe they've got the opportunity and the impunity to exploit the young, the poor, the powerless, and the vulnerable. We must face the truth and find the co-conspirators still at large in one of America's most extensive and sophisticated sex trafficking and child abuse rings in history. Release of the file will expose the role of everybody who facilitated and covered up these crimes, like J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, and Bank of New York Mellon, which executed billions of dollars in transactions related to these offenses, as well as any bank executives who participated in the sexual abuse of girls and young women. We must expose everyone who covered up these crimes, like Alex Acosta, the former U.S. attorney in Miami, Donald Trump's labor secretary, who gave Jeffrey Epstein an unbelievable sweetheart plea deal, immunized the unnamed conspirators, and killed an investigation into Epstein's financial crimes that could have brought down the entire criminal network. And with that, I'm going to yield. I'll reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 4 minutes to the distinguished chair of the House Oversight Committee, Mr. Comer, the gentleman from Kentucky.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As chairman of the House Oversight Committee, I've always believed that sunshine is the best disinfectant. For years, the American people have demanded transparency about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's horrific crimes and about the federal government's failure to protect the victims. The House Oversight Committee is conducting a thorough review of the federal government's investigation into Epstein. Our work goes far beyond the legislation before us today. We are committed to accountability, transparency, and justice for the American people and for the survivors of these appalling crimes. To date, the Oversight Committee has released more than 65,000 pages of documents, issued 13 subpoenas, and conducted interviews with 2 key witnesses, both of whom were Republicans. The Trump administration has provided us with Department of Justice materials and access to suspicious activity reports. Unfortunately, throughout this investigation, Democrats have chosen to manufacture yet another anti-Trump hoax instead of pursuing justice. They have mischaracterized witness testimony and selectively released documents complete with targeted redactions in an effort to smear President Trump. For example, former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr, who oversaw the 2019 Epstein investigation, stated clearly under oath that the prosecution team found no evidence that President Trump committed wrongdoing. Despite this simple and straightforward fact, Ranking Member Robert Garcia, moments after that deposition, tiptoed out and publicly claimed that, quote, Barr could not clear Trump of wrongdoing. That was a lie, and we have the transcript to prove it. I invite the media to read the transcript. When the Oversight Committee interviewed former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, Democrats whipped themselves into a frenzy trying to manufacture a gotcha moment, but they failed. Mr. Acosta dismantled the Democrats' narrative. His testimony confirmed there was no contact between President Trump and Mr. Acosta and no connection between President Trump in the Epstein case. Next, Democrats resorted to selective leaks and doctored documents to mislead the American people. Oversight Committee Republicans have posted 65,000 pages of documents we have received to date. Democrats, by contrast, have released fewer than 1 dozen. In their latest selective leak, Democrats released just three of the 23,000 pages of documents from the Epstein estate. And they made redactions to 2 of those emails that changed both the context and the meaning of the 3 pages they released. When CNN called them out for their deceptive redactions, Representatives Stansbury and Crockett tried to blame Republicans for their own edits, for the Democrat Oversight Committee edits. After Democrats released only 3 emails, Republicans released over 23,000 pages. And what did Democrats say in response when we released every single document that we got? They claimed full transparency was meant to, quote, disorient or distract from their manufactured narrative. These are the same Democrats who chant, release the files every day until the files contradict the story they want to tell. That is the definition of hypocrisy. In contrast, full transparency exposed how Epstein appears to be TDS patient 0. The evals reveal a journalist coached Epstein to blackmail then presidential candidate Donald Trump.
The gentleman's recognized.
The files also show that a House Democrat colluded with Epstein during the 2019 oversight hearing to discredit witness with a vendetta against President Trump. And unsurprisingly, Democrats have been silent about their colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I should just point out that we've heard now from the 2 distinguished chairmen of the Judiciary and the Oversight Committee and they've spoken almost exclusively to denounce Democrats. We have a bipartisan coalition here demanding the truth about the largest child sex abuse and trafficking ring, perhaps in American history, certainly in this century, and they want to just throw stones at the Democrats. What a remarkable failure of leadership we're seeing from the other side. And I imagine that the chairman of the Oversight Committee will follow up his spectacular failure in trying to impeach President Biden with his spectacular failure in trying to block the resolution we brought to the floor today. I'm happy to yield 1 minute. Excuse me, you're not recognized, whoever's speaking. And I'd like to yield 1 minute to the very distinguished minority leader on the House Oversight Committee.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. And Mr. Speaker, it's wonderful to hear Republicans and certainly the chairman of our committee finally wanting transparency on this issue. It is time to end this White House cover-up now. Now, we know that Donald Trump has tried everything to kill our Jeffrey Epstein investigation, and he's failed. And now he's panicking. He's about to lose his Epstein vote to force the Department of Justice to release the files. And let's be crystal clear. Trump has the power to release the files today. He does not even need a vote. And he continues to defy the subpoena of the Oversight Committee to release all the files. What is Donald Trump hiding? What is Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, hiding? Why won't they release the Epstein files right now? And he must explain to the public why he moved sex trafficker and monster Ghislaine Maxwell to a cushy, low-security prison after her interview with Trump's personal lawyer. He should declare, and every Republican should say, that she does not deserve a pardon or a commutation.
The gentleman's time has expired.
I grant him 20 more seconds.
We don't care how much money you have, what party you're in, how powerful you are. We should get justice for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. And our work on the committee is not over. Next up are the bank and financial records to follow and expose Epstein's network. Today, there should be a unanimous vote on releasing the files, and we will get justice. And with that, I yield back.
And we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield a minute and a half to the distinguished gentleman from California and member of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Kiley.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I have consistently called for the maximum possible level of transparency when it comes to the heinous crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. That's why I've consistently said I am inclined to vote for this bill, and it's why I will be doing so today. The victims deserve the truth. They deserve justice, and they deserve closure. For months, they've had to wake up every day and see the name of their tormentor on the front page of every newspaper, on every TV channel, as has the broader American public. This issue has been so politicized by so many people in so many ways, which is deeply unfortunate when we're talking about matters of the highest sensitivity and untold suffering. It is my hope that the passage of this resolution today, together with the work of the Oversight Committee, will lead to the expeditious release of all pertinent material so that we can move on. Let's get accountability, let's get answers, and let's get this over with. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves.
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I yield 1 minute to the very distinguished gentlelady from Washington, a member of the Judiciary Committee.
The gentlelady from Washington is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of girls, children, were abused by Jeffrey Epstein and his massive and powerful ring of pedophiles and protectors of pedophiles. We can't say all their names here. We don't have time. But let's at least bring a few of the courageous survivors and their names onto the House floor right here as we debate this. Haley Robson, Jenna Lisa Jones, Michelle Licata, Ashley Rubright, Annie Farmer, Marina Lacerda, Rachel Benavides. These women have carried a burden that they never should have had to bear. And today they demand, we demand, the American people demand that we answer their clarion call to justice. Today, despite all the giant cover-up attempts by this administration and this Speaker of the House, we will vote to release all the Epstein files. To be clear, there is no protection for pedophiles, no protection for the rich and powerful men of either party who participated, who turned a blind eye, who winked and grinned while witnessing the horrific abuses of young children. Release all the damn files now.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield a minute and a half to the distinguished gentleman from North Carolina and member of our committee.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been very supportive of this effort, specifically to bring justice to the victims of this horrific series of crimes. However, I have worked behind the scenes to raise concerns with this petition as it is currently drafted. Specifically, I believe that there is grave risk at harming innocent people. And I repeat, harming innocent people. When innocent people are harmed, that is not furthering justice. With an investigation of this size and a file that is as large as the Epstein files and as poorly defined as that is in this petition, there will invariably be people who are released pursuant to this discharge petition who had nothing to do with criminal activity. Imagine, if you will, a bellman, a waiter, some type of doorman, a mere social attendee who had no impact whatsoever on the criminal activities of Jeffrey Epstein, no participation. Their lives are forever ruined. And I'm reading specifically from the petition's language that prohibited grounds for withholding information in this file are embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. And I would just submit, if you were going to be embarrassed, if you were going to suffer social harm, and that is all of the encompassed activity that you were a part of, you will be named in this petition. And I resent that. Innocent people should not be harmed when we are pursuing justice. I understand the political nature of this petition. I resent the fact that there was not room for good faith amendments. And I urge the Senate to protect innocent people. I yield back.
Yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you. I'm yielding 1 minute to the distinguished gentlelady from California, Representative Kamlager-Duff.
The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, 1 in 3 women and girls around the world are physically and sexually assaulted each year. Of the 152 women in this body, that means 51 women. It includes your daughters, your sisters, your nieces, your mothers. And with the Epstein files, we have a chance to change that. But real talk, the administration doesn't need a discharge petition. It has not complied with the subpoena, and it has the power to release the files today. Instead, the man in the most powerful position in the world has used the full weight of the government to block and obfuscate and deflect the full release of the files. It is the same person who intimidated female members of Congress to withdraw names from the petition, who responded quiet piggy to a female reporter who asked about the files, and who nominated an alleged sexual predator to be our AG. It is the same person whose name appears more than any other in the Epstein emails. And in the pantheon of violence, a sexual predator is the worst of the worst. So why protect him? It's also curious that the judiciary is managing this debate and has not even had this come before the committee. I wonder why. Release the files now.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Roy, chairman of the Constitution Subcommittee.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I thank the chairman. Today, a united Republican Party and a bipartisan supermajority is going to pass a bill to increase transparency regarding the egregious abuses by Jeffrey Epstein, a goal that anyone of conscience desires. That is, in totality, an important statement to check the rich and the powerful. Remember how we got here. After decades, it was President Trump's Department of Justice that indicted Jeffrey Epstein in July of 2019. It was President Trump's DOJ that arrested and indicted Ms. Maxwell. It was the Republican-led Oversight Committee, through 13 subpoenas, that has released 65,000 pages of files in just 10 months. Meanwhile, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have largely ignored this issue. It was Democrats who redacted an email to mislead the American people about the truth of a witness that exonerated President Trump. It was a Democrat, Representative Placette, who literally texted with Jeffrey Epstein as we questioned Michael Cohen. It was Democrats who shut down the government, resulting in the delay of swearing in of members. As we vote to pass this legislation, and it will pass, it is impossible, however, to avoid problems with its politicization. One colleague has offensively gone so far as to say that to oppose this bill means you support pedophiles. Yet I know good public servants, former law enforcement, former prosecutors who never knew Epstein, never knew any visitors to his criminal enterprise, who have genuine concerns about supporting this bill out of fear of creating new victims or harming existing victims or both. That is what we've reduced Congress to, inserting itself into the prosecutorial process for political motivations, driven heavily by hatred of President Trump. We should be concerned about victim privacy, concerned about risking disclosure of non-credible allegations, of child sexual abuse materials, future investigations. But here's the deal. The leaders of this nation must expose abuses by the rich and the powerful. That is why President Trump and the House have been working for full transparency. But we should be motivated by truth and justice for all, not politics. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentlelady from Massachusetts, Representative Clark, the minority whip.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This should be an easy vote. This is about justice for the victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. This is about every victim of trafficking and sexual abuse, monstrous crimes that thrive in secrecy and fear. Yet instead of shining a light on that darkness, just moments ago, Donald Trump defended the continued obstruction of releasing these files. Even as House Republicans prepare to vote yes today, Speaker Johnson is calling this a show vote. He's calling it dangerous. He is signaling the U.S. Senate to block it. Republicans continue to use their power to shield rich pedophiles from justice. If you can't stand up for these survivors, how can anyone trust you to stand up for them? I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back.
We yield.
The gentleman reserves. Does the gentleman reserve?
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yes, just very quickly, what happened under the Biden administration? Well, under the Biden administration, Ghislaine Maxwell was prosecuted for conspiring to sexually abuse and traffic girls in 2020. Right when it's in 2021, she was convicted. In December of 2021, after a month-long trial in Judge Nathan's courtroom, in 2022, Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison under the Biden administration for sex trafficking and sexual abuse of minors. But when President Trump took office in January of 2025, they killed the investigation. They assembled all the materials, they got all the prosecutors together, and they terminated the investigation. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Raja Krishnamurthy.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support to release the Epstein files. First, this issue is beyond party. It's a question of justice. Survivors have waited too long. Stop the delay. This is not a hoax. Release the files. Second, we must face a hard truth. Silence that shields the powerful is a betrayal of those they hurt. Congress must reject any attempt, including a presidential pardon or any form of clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell. This cannot be done. This would be a cover-up. We cannot allow clemency of any kind for Maxwell, not now, not ever. Survivors deserve justice. I urge a strong yes vote. Thank you.
Yields back.
I want to thank the gentleman for his eloquent remarks. Pardons are for people who are contrite. Pardons are for people who are repentant. Pardons are not for people who lie. Every member of this body should immediately, verbally, vocally denounce the idea of clemency, commutation, or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, and we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Yeah, we reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman reserves.
I yield 30 seconds to Ms. Leisure Fernandez.
The gentlelady is recognized.
There were thousands of girls and young women abused, trafficked, and used by Epstein, the elite and the powerful who believed they could get away with it. Epstein told the young victims that he controlled the banks and the government. Those women refused to be silenced, and today they have pierced the dark with their light. Anytime any girl is trafficked, molested, or abused, the world must stand up. Today, the House proves Jeffrey Epstein wrong. The Senate must do the same tomorrow.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California. 1.5, excuse me, 1.5 minutes to the gentleman from California.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I thank you, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, a minute and a half or an hour, the words would still have to be the same. We've all said that this will pass the House, perhaps unanimously today. I think all of us who have looked at the details of this particular bill know that it is flawed and that before it goes to the president's desk, it has to be amended as it can be amended in the Senate. And we call on the Senate to amend it so that we protect the innocent, so that we have the provisions that were intended perhaps to be in this bill but are not properly written. With that, President Trump has said, get it to his desk, he will sign it. President Trump has said he will do it. But I'm going to say to all of us, it is also important that we remember that Epstein is dead, but people live on, people who were innocent, people who in fact should not be named. We're not talking about the rich and the powerful, we're talking about the very victims. That is what we need to make sure is amended before it goes to the president's desk. And with that, I thank the chairman for his time. I think no more needs to be said that this body will vote for it all, but let's not kid ourselves. It has to be changed so that it properly protects both the tradition of the grand jury and clearly those innocent people that would otherwise be swept up. And I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman yields back. Reserve. Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
This whole bill is about protecting the innocent. Mr. Speaker, the Senate must pass the bill as we are passing it today and as the president has said he would sign it after changing his position on the bill over the weekend when he could see the tidal wave of public opinion moving against him. Let's pass this bill, pass it in the Senate, sign the bill, and let us go ahead and release the complete file. I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Arizona, Representative Ansari.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the walls are closing in on Donald Trump and his rich and powerful friends who either abused or raped children or were enabling and complicit in these heinous crimes for decades. This vote today matters, but here is the truth. Donald Trump could direct the Department of Justice to release the files today. He is choosing not to. They are already under subpoena, led by oversight Democrats, and have refused. This is an ongoing cover-up by the Trump White House, and Mike Johnson in the House has been complicit. What is Trump hiding? Why not release the files today? This is a
time has expired.
Release the files today. Thank you.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Van Drew.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Today, I want to talk about hypocrisy. Let me be clear. I was from Jumpstart, a co-sponsor of this very bill. From the beginning, we should never protect pedophiles. But for months, my Democratic colleagues have done what they think is politically convenient through all the yelling, through all the tears, through all the sadness. They say releasing the Epstein list is of grave concern to them. If that was true, where were they during the 4 years of the Biden presidency? Why didn't they demand the release of these files from Jumpstart in year one? Mr. Speaker, why didn't they ask for them in year two? Or if that wasn't good enough, maybe in year three, they had control, or not even in his final year of office. Other than a single letter the ranking member wrote in 2019, a single letter, not one Democrat on the committee spoke out about Epstein or his victims of this very terrible tragedy, other than to say that he didn't like the plea deal. Let me say this. When they stand here today insisting how badly they want these files released, why didn't they do it? Yet they stayed silent for year after year after year after year under Joe Biden. It's impossible. Mr. Speaker, it is impossible to see that as genuine. What I see is a group more focused on scoring political points and drama than of protecting abused children. The record is clear. Under Republicans, far more information has been released in the last 6 months than was done during all 4 years of the previous presidency under Joe Biden. We've actually been the party of transparency. We've released the information. We've told the truth. Unfortunately, and I'm sad to say it, they have been the party of hypocrisy. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
You know, I've never heard a more defensive presentation in my life than what we're hearing from over there. The gentleman should spend a little less time pointing out hypocrisy and a little more time trying to ferret out cruelty, humiliation, and rape. And that's what we're working on. I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from California, Mr. Min.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I want to remind you that we are all here voting on this bill because President Trump, who has the power to release the Epstein files at any time, has refused to do so, calling this a hoax. We're here because Speaker Mike Johnson and President Trump have gone to extraordinary lengths to try to kill and delay the discharge petition, including refusing to seat Adelita Grijalva for over 40 days and threatening House Republicans who signed on. Now, several of my Republican colleagues have accused those of us House Democrats who support justice here of having Trump derangement syndrome. You all suffer from something much worse, which is pedophile protection syndrome. Stop protecting pedophiles, release the Epstein files. The victims deserve justice. I yield back.
We reserve.
Members are reminded to direct their comments to the chair. The gentleman from Maryland reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from Maryland.
I'm granting, yielding 30 seconds to my friend Representative Walkinshaw from Virginia.
The gentleman is recognized.
For years, Mr. Speaker, we have watched dangerous conspiracies like Pizzagate and QAnon shape our political landscape. They help fuel the rise of President Trump and were built on baseless claims about secret pedophile rings, while the real documented case of child sex trafficking involving Jeffrey Epstein remains shrouded in secrecy because President Trump refuses to release the files. What is President Trump hiding? Why won't he release the files? The House finally has the opportunity to act, release the files, and let the American people see the truth. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Granting 30 seconds to the very distinguished gentlelady who is finally with us, Representative Adelita Grijalva from Arizona 7.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to acknowledge the survivors, family members, and advocates who are here today and have never given up. The legislation in front of us, at its core, is about something very simple. The survivors deserve justice. The American people deserve the truth. To every survivor watching, your courage is inspiring. You are the reason why this vote is happening today. Protecting women and children from pedophiles should not be a Democratic issue, should not be a Republican issue. It should be a human rights issue and a matter of justice. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, and we reserve.
The chair will remind all persons in the gallery that they are here as guests of the House and that any manifestation of approval or disapproval of proceedings is in violation of the rules of the House. The gentleman from Maryland.
Yeah, but I'll just add, they're here as honored guests of the House, and we're delighted they're here, and with that, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland.
I'm granting 30 seconds to Representative Lois Franco from Florida.
The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, for far too long, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse were failed by a justice system that minimized their suffering and prosecutors who treated young girls as if they were criminals. That was wrong, and I am here with my colleagues to promise this. We will get to the bottom of why the Epstein survivors were treated so badly, who made those decisions, and who were they protecting. No more secrecy, no more excuses. We all deserve the truth, and I thank the survivors for their courage and perseverance. Your voices are being heard.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Louisiana, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Mr.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, for doing such an extraordinary job on all of this. For 43 long days, the Democrats held this House and the entire country hostage. Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our regular legislative session. We have a lot of work to do. My colleagues on this side of the chamber are ready and eager to get back to our urgent legislative work that we promised the American people we would do. We've got to continue lowering the cost of health care. We've got to bring down prices for American families, and we've got to finish the regular appropriations process, just to name a few of those priorities. And I wish I could say that our first order of business would be to get to those urgent priorities, but of course we're here spending time on the floor about something else. This is something we could have resolved last week when we brought a unanimous consent to pass this discharge with the full support of the body. But our friends over here who are arguing today stalled that. They objected to it, and they wanted to have this exercise instead. And that's why we say that this is a show vote. That's what this is. They're making a show of it. And it really is a shame. We have some heroic women in the chamber today. I met with many of them a while back. They're in the gallery here. They have come forward. They have shown their faces. They've used their names to share the unspeakable tragedies that many of them were subjected to, some of them when they were very young. And it is a heroic service to the country. They are seeking justice, and the justice has been delayed for too long. The Department of Justice, many years ago, should have brought these charges. It took too long to do it. And now we're in this process of making sure all the American people get the information, but we have to do it in the right way, After 4 years of Democrat control under President Biden, they were not truthful with us about a lot of things. The Democrats insisted the border was secure. We knew it wasn't. They insisted that inflation was transitory. We knew it wouldn't be. They misled the American people about the obvious mental and physical decline of the previous commander-in-chief. And now those same Democrats are demanding transparency. Suddenly, transparency is their new word. Out of nowhere, they've taken a curious concern in the Epstein investigation, all in the name of that, in the name of transparency. But the question has been asked here many times during the debate on the floor, and everybody questioning why it is that Democrats have done this right now have to look at the obvious facts. The Democrats had all the Epstein files in their possession for 4 long years under the Biden presidency. The Biden Department of Justice had these files, and no one on this side who is breathless today about the urgency of this release ever said a word about it. And it was the Democrats who could have urged President Biden's Department of Justice to go beyond prosecuting just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but they didn't do it. And so it's a fair question to ask today, why now? Why the sudden urgent interest in Jeffrey Epstein? Look, we know why. It's because the Democrats were never interested in transparency or executing justice or protecting the victims of this unspeakable tragedy before. The simple truth is obvious for everybody to see. This is a political exercise for Democrats, and it pains me to say it. I wish that was not the truth, but it is, and it's undeniable. This is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt was to shut the government down. Democrats are using the Epstein tragedy, the unspeakable evils that this guy committed with his trafficking ring and all of the abuses that they made these young women go through. They're using that as a political weapon to try to distract from their failures as a party and to try their best to try to tie President Trump somehow into this wretched scandal. The president had nothing to do with it. He's been very clear, and he has nothing to hide, and that's why he's endorsed the vote today. I suspect this vote will be probably unanimous. But here's the important point that everybody needs to understand. We have been advocates of maximum transparency, but we have also insisted that the victims be carefully protected. The Oversight Committee has been doing extraordinary work, and we've got some of the most vigorous advocates on the Republican and Democrat side on the Oversight Committee. They've been working in earnest to deliver transparency for the American people and to do it in a responsible manner. What do we mean by that? The bipartisan effort over there is already producing all the results that the discharge petition seeks and much, much more. Chairman Comer and all of these advocates over there have been releasing thousands of documents, for example, from the Epstein estate. By the way, in my view, that's been the greatest treasure trove of information because it's yielded for us Epstein's own personal flight logs, his financial records, his daily calendars, and so much more. But importantly, none of that was addressed or is addressed in the legislation that's being voted on today. The estate files wouldn't even have been encompassed in that. And so it goes to show that the Oversight Committee is doing it from the right way. From the very beginning, we've been insistent that this matter be handled carefully and with the utmost caution and care for the people who have been harmed. They should not be made to suffer any longer. We're talking about real people's lives at stake here, and young victims who don't want to be dragged into this political game that could get hurt further. But the Democrats are rushing the release of thousands of unsubstantiated documents that may be included in this, that are going to be in the public domain with the passage of this bill. And there are serious deficiencies in the legislation that I have noted at length, and Republicans have to work to address those deficiencies in the Senate if and when this legislation is advanced. I stood before the American public today at our press conference, and I explained in detail the dangers of the discharge petition. We have posted at my website, speaker.gov, a summary. The legal counsel, a small army of lawyers, put this together. I used to be a federal court litigator. Many of my colleagues who have spoken today were. We understand the dangers of how this was haphazardly drawn up. And among them, by the way, Mr. Speaker, before I forget, I seek unanimous consent to enter into this document into the record. It's on the website. It's entitled, How the Flaws of H.R. 4405 Could Re-Victimize Epstein's Victims, Create New Victims, and Damage the Judicial System. It is dated today. Thank you. And it summarizes just 5 or 6 of the major concerns. Among them, it fails to fully protect victim privacy. It could create new categories of victims. It potentially jeopardizes grand jury secrecy. It fails to prohibit release of child sexual abuse materials that are not appropriately defined in the legislation. It jeopardizes future federal investigations, and we have national security concerns regarding classified information. We'll put this in the record because we need the legislative record to reflect what is the legislative intent behind this vote. I used to litigate cases. We would litigate federal statutes and whether or not they could survive, and legislative intent is important. And we need to say clearly for the record, as a Speaker of the House, I'm saying to you, this legislation that will pass today is flawed and it must be amended. The question is, why didn't we amend it here before we passed it? Because the authors won't allow it. Because under the rules of the House, under a discharge petition, they have to agree to consent for the legislation to be amended, and they're not doing that. So now we rely upon our partners in the other chamber to get that done, and they need to do that. The victims deserve our utmost respect. In fact, they should be saluted for their courage. And the young women who have not come forward, who are now, some of them are middle-aged women who have not come forward, also deserve our respect, and they deserve to be protected. Republicans support transparency. We want maximum transparency, especially when it comes to disclosing the names of anybody who had anything to do with these evils, anybody who conspired with or aided in any way Jeffrey Epstein. They must be brought to justice. We want the bill to be amended so it doesn't, at the same time, violate victim privacy, create new victims, disclose the names of any whistleblower or informant, cause the release of grand jury materials or child sexual abuse materials, or undermine our national security. And if and when the Senate takes this up, we will work with our colleagues over there to make sure that these things are corrected. I'll just close with this simple thought. We've been at this a while. It's drug on for a while, but it's time for this to come to light. I expect that this will be a unanimous vote, and it will reflect what I think every member in this chamber, and I'll say this now, at least in recent days, every member of the chamber on the Democrat side, they didn't say anything for 4 years, but they're for maximum transparency now, and so is this side. But we want to do it in a respectful and careful manner so that we don't subject innocent people to further harm. And that has been the whole thing. I told all my members today I'll be voting yes on this, and I suspect almost everyone will. We'll send it to the Senate, and we hope it's corrected. Thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'm yielding to Mr. Gomez for the sole purpose of making a parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Gomez is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask a point of parliamentary inquiry. Is this an appropriate time to point out that the Republicans named Children's Savings Account in their so-called One Big Beautiful Bill after Donald Trump, someone connected to one of the most notorious pedophiles in this country, or that the Speaker of the House just lied on the floor by stating that there was protections, there isn't protections for the victims in the Epstein bill.
The gentleman is no longer recognized. The gentleman from Maryland, you are recognized.
I am prepared to close. I've got no more speakers on my side.
The gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No.
Gentleman from Ohio has 30 seconds.
Can I inquire how much time is remaining?
30 seconds. Six minutes, 15 seconds.
Take 30 his. We reserve.
Gentleman reserved. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'll take the opportunity of the Speaker's presence to respond to some of the things that he said. In the very presence of the victims and the survivors who come to join us today, the Speaker said that now would be a time we should be working on urgent legislative work. Mr. Speaker, justice is urgent legislative work. The truth is urgent legislative work. The Speaker says, why now? Why now? Well, Mr. Speaker, you were the one who refused to swear in Adelita Grajova for 50 days. We would have done it 50 days ago, but she provided the 218th signature on the discharge petition. So why now? It was because of your dilatory tactics, your delay, your postponement of it. Now, the gentleman says that there are not sufficient protections. There are protections in the bill for the victims to make sure that their names will be redacted. And yet we hear even the Speaker of the House of Representatives openly inviting the U.S. Senate to start finger painting on this bill, which we have waited more than 5 months to bring to the floor. The Senate should pass the bill exactly as it's written. The president should sign it exactly as he said he would when he finally changed his mind. And the Epstein file must be released. Moreover, if the president is serious about what he's saying, he's got the power to release the Epstein file right now. Nobody's stopping him. It's within his possession. It's within his control. He can release the whole thing, and he can redact the names of the victims and others who are innocent in this process. Mr. Speaker, Speaker Johnson said that these are unspeakable evils. Well, because of the bravery and the invincible courage of the women who've joined us today, they're no longer unspeakable. They're spoken. They're articulated. The cat is out of the bag, and we know what's been going on for decades. It's been a double standard of justice, going all the way back to Alex Acosta, who later got rewarded with a cabinet appointment in the Trump administration. Alex Acosta had a 60-count federal indictment ready to go against all kinds of people for an interstate sex trafficking conspiracy with solicitation, with child sex abuse, all of it. And he traded that 60-count federal indictment for 1 count in state court. And Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting the sweetest of sweetheart deals ever on the plea bargain front. He was free from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do whatever he wanted and continuing to perpetrate his crimes and run his conspiracy. And then he would come and he would watch TV and spend the night in jail. And it was over in about a year after the rape and sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of girls. And he kept going and he kept at it. We want the whole truth to come out. This is the United States of America. Even the British monarchy wouldn't put up with this. How about the American democracy? How about we say, no way, we're not going to allow this cover-up to go on for 1 day more. And I'm glad the president changed his mind after pulling out all the stops to try to get one of our Republican colleagues to change their mind, to remove their name from the discharge petition. He gave up. And I want to salute the gentlelady from Colorado from having the courage to stand her ground in the Situation Room in the White House and say, no, she wasn't going to be bullied. No. So I'm glad the president changed his mind. But let's be clear, Mr. President, you've got the power today to release the entire file. That's what you called for. That's what Pam Bondi called for. That's what Kash Patel called for. So we don't need anybody calling for the Senate to slow things down for more weeks and more months. The American people have had it. We'll reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman is reminded to direct your comments to the chair and not your colleagues. Gentleman from Ohio is recognized, and you do have 90 seconds remaining. Correction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Texas.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
The Democrat Party, with help from the dishonest media, used the Epstein files not to seek justice from the victims, but to smear President Trump. And it's sickening, quite sickening. The Democrats have used the Epstein files to distract the American people from the wins President Trump and his administration have delivered for the American people for the last 11 months. I'm proud to work with my Republican colleagues on the House Oversight Committee in coordination with the Justice Department. 65,000 pages of documents related from Epstein released. What have my Democrat colleagues done? They selectively leaked and altered documents to mislead the American people. As President Trump has stated, we have nothing to hide here. I'm voting to release the files so that we can move on from this smear campaign the Democrats have manufactured. God bless
Gentleman's
Donald J.
time has
Trump.
expired. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Ohio reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
All right. How much time do I have to close?
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank all of America for tuning in to this. I want to thank Representatives Massey and Khanna, Representative Green, all of those who have insisted upon bringing the truth forward and a reckoning with the reality of one of the worst international child sex trafficking rings ever to exist in the United States and the cover-up attendant to it. We've got the opportunity today to do justice for the victims, for the survivors who have come forward to say that the voice of the victims and the survivors must be put at the very center of our deliberations, not shunted off to the side, not submerged, not subordinated, but put at the very center. We must hear from the people who themselves were victimized by this nightmare. Now, our colleagues across the aisle seem to want to make this into some sort of partisan contest. I haven't heard so much talk about the Democrats since the Democratic National Convention. And all that we've done here is to say we want to bring the truth forward along with a bipartisan group. We don't want the Senate monkeying around with this in order to slow things down. We want it passed in the Senate. We want it signed. And before that, if the president is true to his word and he wants to see all of this come to light, he can release it now instead of fighting, kicking, and screaming every step along the way. But I'm glad he's changed his mind, and I hope he maintains the momentum he's got to stick with the vast majority of the American people who want to see that the truth is done here. And while he's at it, the administration could reconsider their terrible policies, gutting federal offices and programs designed to combat violence against women. The DOJ terminated hundreds of grants to police departments, defunding the police when it comes to investigating violent sex crimes and to support victims. His DOJ destroyed programs to combat international human trafficking rings. Let's get back on the side of the women. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker Johnson said it right. Why now after 4 years of doing nothing? Because going after President Trump is an obsession with these guys. Best example is John Brennan testified in front of our committee under oath, said he was not involved with the dossier. Only problem is Tulsi Gabbard declassified a report, released that report, and it said exactly the opposite. And she related a story in there where a CIA official went up to Mr. Brennan and said, we shouldn't include this in the report. And John Brennan's response was, yeah, but doesn't it ring true? Forget the facts, forget the truth, go after Trump, put it in. Same dynamic at work here. We're all for protecting innocent victims. We're all for exposing the bad guys who did bad things. But this is an obsession with the left. For 10 years, it's going after President Trump. So vote yes. Make sure the bad guys are held accountable. We all want to do that. Speaker Johnson's right. I think it's going to be unanimous. But understand what they're doing, because they had 4 years and didn't do a darn thing. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 4405? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without
Can I request a recorded
objection,
vote, Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yeah, I'm requesting a recorded vote.
The gentleman from Maryland has requested a recorded vote. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to suspend the rules will be followed by 5-minute votes on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 879, adoption of House Resolution 879 if ordered, and adoption of House Resolution 878. This is a 15-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 8, Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 879, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Calendar Number 47, House Resolution 879. Resolution providing for consideration of the joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska Integrated Activity Plan Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 130, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Buffalo Field Office Record of Decision and approved Resource Management Plan Amendment, providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 131, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the concurrent resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 58, denouncing the horrors of socialism, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 1949, to repeal restrictions on the export of import of natural gas, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 3109, to require the Secretary of Energy to direct the National Petroleum Council to issue a report with respect to the petrochemical refineries in the United States and for other purposes, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5107, to repeal the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022, enacted by the District of Columbia Council, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5214, to require mandatory pretrial and post-conviction detention for crimes of violence and dangerous crimes and require mandatory cash bail for certain offenses that pose a threat to the public safety or order in the District of Columbia, and for other purposes, and for other purposes.
The question is on ordering the previous question. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
Hello, you all hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button. We like to bring this kind of content every day. We are making history here today. We are watching history here today. Please hit the like and the share and the subscribe button. We are here to witness history. Hopefully, it goes on to the Senate and on to the Senate, and hopefully, there won't be a stall. I fear that we're going to have a stall because this is just the excuse for the president to put this under investigation, because that would be something that they could do, is put it under investigation, and then we won't be a part of getting those uh, files. So let's hit the like, share, and subscribe. Nobody probably is going to prison. I just need people. We just need people to be exposed. That's all. We just need people to be exposed.
On this vote, the yeas are 217, the nays are 211. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Speaker,
For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts rise?
I ask for a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. The House will be in order. The House will come to order. The House will come to order.
Troy, you drinking a lot of Kool-Aid. How old are you, Troy Price? Because you must have drank a lot of Kool-Aid for you to be saying the bullshit that you saying in the chat. You must have drank a lot. You can't be over 25. You can't be over 25. You gotta be a knucklehead. Because only a knucklehead would say the shit you've been saying.
For what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
To speak out of order for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to recognize a man whose dedication, steadiness, and wisdom have shaped not only my work in this chamber, but the...
Troy, you're delusional. You're delusional. You're delusional. Even people who support Donald Trump know his accomplishments don't beat FDR or Ronald Reagan. Stop it. You need to stop it for real. You sound goofy as hell.
work of this institution itself. I'm talking about my Chief of Staff, Brett Horton. There are few people who know Capitol Hill more intimately than Brett.
You should pace yourself with those drugs, Troy, for real. You really need to get up off of them.
For 15 years.
Gentlemen will suspend. The House will be in order.
For 15 years, he's been by my side. He began as my counsel in 2010 and worked his way through some of the most demanding, consequential roles in the House. Policy director at the Republican Study Committee, floor director in the Majority Whip's office, and for the last decade, my chief of staff in both the Whip's office and the leader's office. To me and to countless members of Congress and staff, Brett Horton has been far more than a colleague. He's been a trusted advisor, steady in his approach, wise in his counsel, and deliberate in his words and actions. When the stakes were the highest, Brett's voice was the one you wanted in the room. His fingerprints are on every major Republican policy victory we've achieved in the past decade. But perhaps more importantly, he's been by my side through tough personal and professional challenges that extend far beyond legislating. In the aftermath of the congressional baseball shooting, an event that shook my family, my staff, and this entire conference in Congress, Brett's leadership and friendship were unwavering.
He helped carry us through one of the most difficult and unprecedented challenges we ever faced. Mr. Speaker, public service at this level demands trust, character, and unwavering duty for the institution that is this United States Congress. Brett Horton embodies all.
You know, snuffing shit do count, right, Jordan? Snuffing the shit up your nose count too.
All of these qualities. I'm profoundly grateful for his years of service to me personally, to this House, and to our country. As Brett begins his next chapter, I have no doubt he'll continue to serve with the same excellence that has defined his entire career. The United States House of Representatives is the stronger institution because of Brett Horton's distinguished service here. I wish Brett all the best in his future endeavors, and I tell you, thank you, Brett, for your personal friendship and for your service to this great United States of America and this great Congress. Thank you, Brett Horton.
Gentleman yields back. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the adoption of House Resolution 879, on which a recorded vote is ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
Calendar number 47, House Resolution 879. Resolution providing for consideration of the joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska Integrated Activity Plan Record of Decision, providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 130, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Buffalo Field Office Record of Decision and approved Resource Management Plan Amendment, providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 131, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program Record of Decision, providing for
Ain't none of y'all getting no checks. Don't even get happy about it.
consideration of the concurrent resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 58, denouncing the horrors of socialism, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 1949,
Goofy checks don't count, Troy. Goofy checks don't count.
to repeal restrictions on the export and import of natural gas, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 3109, to require the Secretary of Energy to direct the National Petroleum Council to issue a report with respect to the petrochemical refineries in the United States and for other purposes, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5107, to repeal the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022, enacted by the District of Columbia Council, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 5214, to require mandatory pre-trial and post-conviction detention for crimes of violence and dangerous crimes, and require mandatory cash bail for certain offenses that pose a threat to the public safety or order in the District of Columbia and for other purposes and for other purposes.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 217 and the nays are 210. The resolution is adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on adoption of House Resolution 878, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 878, resolution disapproving the behavior of Representative Jesus G. Chuy Garcia of Illinois.
The question is on adoption of the resolution. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
So we getting down to the wire, are we?
On this vote, the yeas are 236, the nays are 183, with 4 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privilege of the House.
The gentleman is recognized. Just a moment. Members of the House will come to order. Chair would ask members to please take conversations off the floor. The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, my House Resolution 888, censoring and condemning Delegate Stacy Plaskett and removing her from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence for conduct that reflects the discredibility on the House of Representatives for colluding with convicted felon and offender Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing. Whereas Stacy Plaskett, the delegate representing the United States Virgin Islands in the House of Representatives, inappropriately coordinated in real time with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a congressional hearing in February of 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett was actively coached by Epstein during the hearing, receiving instructions on specific lines of questioning, and was congratulated after the message by Mr. Epstein, good work. Whereas Jeffrey Epstein, the Speaker of the House, is not in order.
The gentleman has the floor. The chair would again ask the body to please observe the quorum and keep conversations to a minimum. The gentleman has the floor.
Whereas Jeffrey Epstein was a known convicted felony sex offender, having pled guilty and been convicted for procuring a child for prostitution and solicitation, a proselyte in a plea deal in 2008, and served a 13-month prison sentence. Whereas in the course of that investigation, the FBI compiled reports on dozens of confirmed minors who credibly alleged sexual abuse by Mr. Epstein. Whereas Epstein was under further federal investigation beginning in November of 2018, 2 months before Delegate Plaskett's recently revealed text exchange during a congressional hearing, following investigative reporting by the Miami Herald detailing Epstein's controversial 2008 plea deal and highlighting accounts of his victims. Whereas Epstein was arrested in July of 2019 and charged with 1 count of sex trafficking of minors and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors, he was later found dead in the New York Metropolitan Correctional Center. Whereas according to documents released from Epstein's estate during a House Committee on Oversight and Reform hearing featuring testimony from Michael Cohen, the disgraced former attorney for President Donald J. Trump, Delegate Plaskett coordinated her line of questioning with Jeffrey Epstein in real time over text messages while the hearing was underway. Whereas Delegate Plaskett, who previously served as an Assistant Attorney General in the United States Department of Justice Civil Division, is known to have had extensive political, personal, and professional connections with Epstein after his conviction as a sex offender up to the time of his arrest and then his death in 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's relationship with Epstein stands in stark contrast to the public image that she has curated for herself as a defender of justice and accountability, and while secretly collaborating with an individual whose crimes against vulnerable women and children shocked the entire nation. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's willingness to receive instructions on official congressional proceedings from Epstein, a convicted felony sex offender with deep concerning international associations, is especially alarming and inappropriate given her own past service in the United States Department of Justice in her current role on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and raises serious questions about Delegate Plaskett's judgment, her integrity, and her fitness to serve. Whereas such associations erode public trust in Congress, particularly when they involve using input from a sex offender to advance partisan attacks during official proceedings. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Section 1, censure of Delegate Stacey Plaskett. Resolved that the House of Representatives censors and condemns Delegate Stacey Plaskett for inappropriate coordination with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing, which reflects discreditably on the House of Representatives, and directs the Committee on Ethics to conduct a full investigation to the extent of Plaskett's ties to Epstein and any further improprieties. Section 2, remove from House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The following named member be and is hereby removed from the following committee on the House of Representatives. Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Ms. Plaskett.
I recognize the gentleman from South Carolina to offer the resolution just noticed. Does the gentleman from South Carolina offer the resolution?
I do.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 888. Whereas Stacey Plaskett, the delegate representing the United States Virgin Islands in the House of Representatives, inappropriately coordinated with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a congressional hearing in February 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett was actively coached by Epstein during the hearing, received instructions on specific lines of questioning, and was congratulated afterwards with the message, "Good work." Whereas Jeffrey Epstein was a known convicted felony sex offender, having pled guilty and been convicted for procuring a child for prostitution and for soliciting a prostitute in a plea deal in 2008 and served a 13-month sentence. Whereas in the course of that investigation, the FBI compiled reports on dozens of confirmed minors who credibly alleged sexual abuse by Epstein. Whereas Epstein was under further federal investigation beginning November 2018, 2 months before Delegate Plaskett's recently revealed text exchange during a congressional hearing, following investigative reporting by the Miami Herald detailing Epstein's controversial 2008 plea deal and highlighting accounts of his victims. Whereas Epstein was arrested in July 2019 and charged with 1 count of sex trafficking of minors and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors, and he was later found dead in the New York Metropolitan Correctional Center. Whereas according to documents released from Epstein's estate, during a House Committee on Oversight and Reform hearing featuring testimony from Michael Cohen, disgraced former attorney to President Donald J. Trump, Delegate Plaskett coordinated her line of questioning with Jeffrey Epstein in real time over text message while the hearing was underway. Whereas Delegate Plaskett, who previously served as an Assistant Attorney General in the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Division, is known to have had extensive political, personal, and professional connections with Epstein after his conviction as a sex offender up to the time of his arrest and then death in 2019. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's relationship with Epstein stands in stark contrast to the public image she has curated for herself as a defender of justice and accountability, while secretly collaborating with an individual whose crimes against vulnerable women and children shocked the nation. Whereas Delegate Plaskett's willingness to receive instructions on official congressional proceedings from Epstein, a convicted felony sex offender with deeply concerning international associations, is especially alarming and inappropriate given her own past service in the U.S. Department of Justice and her current role on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and raises serious questions about Delegate Plaskett's judgment, integrity, and fitness to serve. And whereas such associations erode public trust in Congress, particularly when this involves using input from a sex offender to advance partisan attacks during official proceedings. Now therefore be it resolved. Section 1, censure of Delegate Stacey Plaskett. The House of Representatives, 1, censures and condemns Delegate Stacey Plaskett for inappropriate coordination with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing, which reflects discreditably on the House of Representatives, and 2, directs the Committee on Ethics to conduct a full investigation into the extent of Plaskett's ties to Epstein and any potential further improprieties. Section 2, removal from House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The following named member be and is hereby removed from the following committee of the House of Representatives. Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Ms. Plaskett.
The resolution qualifies. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Massachusetts rise?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Ms. Clark of Massachusetts moves to refer the resolution to the Committee on Ethics.
The gentlelady from Massachusetts is recognized for 1 hour.
Mr. Speaker, today we have finally taken a vote that recognizes the need for the survivors and victims of Jeffrey Epstein to have justice and transparency. And not minutes later, the gentleman from South Carolina is filing yet another partisan resolution. I ask all of my colleagues to support this motion to refer this to the Ethics Committee, and I yield back my time.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion to refer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
And the motion is not up. What
Mr.
purpose?
Speaker, I request to call the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. 5 minutes will be allowed for this vote. On this vote, the ayes are 213 and the noes are 214. The motion is not adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 2 of Rule 9, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Norman, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
In just a moment. The chair would ask the House to come to order again. Ask members to take conversations off the floor so that the members can be given due accord and respect during the period of debate. Due accord and respect to the debate. The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today because the House of Representatives has a responsibility and a duty to protect the integrity of this institution. And what we learned from the documents released by Jeffrey Epstein's estate is nothing short of alarming. Those documents show that Delegate Stacey Plaskett, a sitting member of Congress, coordinated her questioning during an official oversight hearing with a man who is a convicted sex offender, a man whose crimes against minors shocked this entire nation. Let me be clear, this was just not casual contact. There there were deliberate communications, and they shaped her official line of questioning in a congressional hearing. The American people expect honesty. The American people expect integrity and judgment from their elected officials. They expect members of Congress to conduct themselves with one word: decency, not to seek advice from a predator who exploited minor children. This resolution does not accuse. It acknowledges what is documented. It censures Delegate Plaskett for her conduct, removes her from the Intelligence Committee, where her judgment is paramount, and directs a full investigation into the extent of her relationship with Mr. Epstein. Some will try to spin this as politics, but protecting the honor of this body is not partisan. It's not Democrat. It's not Republican. Standing against a convicted predator's influence in our proceedings is not partisan. It's basic decency. We cannot pretend this didn't happen. The American people deserve better. Speaker, I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
And I rise in opposition to this resolution. We're here today on the floor to support the complete disclosure of information related to Jeffrey Epstein and his billion-dollar international child sex trafficking ring. And our side of the aisle at least supports the release of information relating to anybody who had anything to do with it, whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or what have you, period. We insist on complete full disclosure. This resolution has nothing to do with that. This seems to me to be one more pathetic effort to distract and divert attention from the fact that the president's name appeared more than 1,000 times already in the small fraction of material released on Epstein, and from the failure of the majority to move to disclose this information. And it is this bipartisan group that we've had behind the discharge resolution, which has insisted on bringing this to the fore, and we've got nothing but obstruction, opposition, resistance, evasion, distraction, and diversion from the other side. And now we get one more resolution like this. The resolution actually proposes a disciplinary censure against Representative Stacey Plaskett, but amazingly alleges no misconduct. It does not allege the violation of the Constitution. It does not allege the violation of a federal law or a state law or local law. It does not even allege a violation of the ethics rules of the House of Representatives, and yet they want to censure her and throw her off of her committee. This, a distinguished former federal prosecutor, diligent public servant, representative of the people of the Virgin Islands. Now, prison to a prison camp where she's gotten very special pampered treatment, like she's in a Trump hotel. She gets room service to her cell. She gets gym privileges other inmates don't get. She gets to use the warden as a go-between with people outside of the institution and so on. But in any event, she had due process. Donald Trump had due process. He was convicted on 34 felonies, but he had the right to counsel. He had the presumption of innocence. He had a unanimous jury trial, right? They had a right to cross-examine everybody, put their own witnesses on. Now, they want to take a former United States prosecutor, the representative of the people of the Virgin Islands, and without even going to the ethics committee, much less a court, they want to arraign her on some charges based on a newspaper article that she did something lawful. However ill-advised it may have been, she took a phone call from one of her constituents. Now, I don't think it is the position of the very distinguished gentleman that if we find Jeffrey Epstein on the phone with Donald Trump, he should be impeached for it, or is that his position? Is his position that anytime Jeffrey Epstein got somebody on the phone, and he got a lot of people on the phone, that person is suddenly guilty? That sounds like guilt by association. That sounds like collective guilt. Our minority whip introduced a perfectly reasonable amendment to say, let's refer this to an ethics committee. Let's have a real hearing. They didn't want to have a real hearing. They want to rush to judgment. Why? So there can be some headline that will please Donald Trump tomorrow instead of a unanimous statement, or forgive me, I think the distinguished gentleman from Louisiana may have dissented, but an otherwise unanimous verdict of the House of Representatives that the American people want all the files open. We've had enough of the cover-up. We want all of the truth. We want the survivors and the victims to have the possibility of accountability. Well, they want to give them another headline, which is that they've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing. Now, if you want to actually give her the chance to explain what happened, then we would take it to the ethics committee. I still don't see what the charge is. Where is the ethical transgression? Where is the legal transgression? Are you saying anybody on your side of the aisle who had a phone call with Jeffrey Epstein should be censured? Be careful your answer there, because there's a lot more that's about to come out, right? So you should think about what is the principle behind this rush to judgment. I want to close just with this thought, because I know there were a lot of people in the chamber who were here when this happened and a lot who weren't. There was a move to expel George Santos, who was a Republican member of the House from New York. And it was the same kind of rush to judgment, absolute political frenzy. And I looked at it for about 60 seconds. And then, I was a professor of constitutional law, so call me a legal nerd. But I said, wait, this guy's not been convicted of anything. Well, he's a Republican. Yeah, I know he's a Republican. He is not convicted in criminal court. To my knowledge, he had not been arraigned yet or convicted of anything in the ethics disciplinary process. They just said, well, there's bad press. We want to get rid of him. Beware of what you wish for. Is that the rule that you want here in the House of Representatives? That you can just draw up a member of Congress in 24 hours or 48 hours because there's a bad newspaper article without asking any questions, without giving that person any due process at all? Is that what it's come to at this point? I mean, all we're asking for in the Epstein files is release the materials so we can check it out. They want to go ahead and censure and remove from a committee a distinguished member of the House of Representatives with no due process at all. I reject this. I hope the whole body will reject this, just like I voted and spoke against removing George Santos, a Republican on the other side of the aisle, because he had gotten no due process. I hope all of our colleagues will reject this absurd rush to judgment and attempt to change the subject here. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, before I yield time to my good friend from Louisiana, Representative Raskin, I will be careful in my remarks. You need to be careful with your facts. You have an 11-year veteran of this body who should know better. You have an 11-year member of this body who took money. It wasn't a newspaper article. It was a fact. She took money from Jeffrey Epstein. It's ironic that you're taken up by defending Ms. Plaskett which it's going to the ethics committee, but she's lost her willingness or lost her ability to serve because she got irrational judgment by taking money from a convicted pedophile of young children. And it's unfathomable that you're taking a position that you are. These are facts. You mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell. She's not a sitting member. Of Congress. She, as a sitting member of Congress, she has committees. With that, I want to yield as much time as needed for my good friend in Louisiana, Mr. Clay Higgins.
And the chair would remind all members to please avoid engaging in personalities to direct our comments through the chair. The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized.
I thank my colleague, Mr. Norman from South Carolina, and I thank my colleague, Mr. Raskin, for the salient points that he has brought to this debate. I also